Hey everybody, welcome to the press. Welcome on the second show of the week for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. We're going to talk about the model, current form, horses for courses for this week. It's going to be a pretty short show, to be honest with you, because there aren't many horses for courses, and there aren't a lot of guys that are in great form. So we do not have particularly lengthy lists in that regard to talk about today. We'll try to keep it around 15 minutes. If you are interested in learning more about our model and subscribing to Golf Newsnet, head over to golfnewsnet.com, and you can subscribe for $10 for a week or $40 for the year. Highly recommend the $40. It's much easier to do it that way. You get a whole year's worth of stuff, all those good things. You've heard that before, spiel before if you've listened to this show. So we do a model each week. The model is not meant to be predictive. It is meant to be a ranking of the players in the field. We go over the top 10 here because the top 10 is not typically particularly surprising. This week, I think you will see some surprises that are kind of interesting. At least I was surprised, let's put it that way. And then we'll talk a little bit about, the course fits, golf course fit. Then we'll talk a little bit about horses for courses in terms of based on history. Fit and history aren't necessarily the same. And I do want to start before we get into the model about the weather forecast. I typically do not talk in this tournament about props around winning score. I've seen the prop for that at, I think it was 264, 265. It's a par 72 golf course, so we're talking 23, 24 under par. I think that is a spot-on number, given that the weather forecast is for rain throughout good portions of the week, including today. Which means the golf course is going to be soft, accessible, scoreable. That is a hard one to bet because you're talking about someone winning at like 25 under or better. I think you're asking a lot there. I think you'd play the under. Well, I guess you play the over, right? You want the winning score, not to be more than that, not less than that. So you want the over. You're probably going to get your winner in the 22 to 24 under. It's going to be a sweat. But I think you would get a higher winning score than that. So I just want to point that out based on the weather. We don't normally talk about that prop. Normally talk about winning margin. And I'm not going to talk about that this week. There's too much variance and just five versions of this to make me believe in a certain type of outcome. But I do think you want to play winning total higher than what's in the market out there right now. Let's go over the model for the week. Top 10. You're going to be surprised because I was. Number 1, Alex Noren. Not by a lot, but by enough over Cameron Young. Aaron Rai is third. Now, we just talked yesterday on the show, like, I'm not going to bet Aaron Rai, even though he's playing well, because he hasn't won yet. It's kind of like Steven Yeager syndrome that I had. And I'm still not going to bet him. Even though he's third in the model, I'm still not going to bet him. But he is a consistent player who gains strokes on the field. He plays well in all kinds of different types of environments and all kinds of different types of places. And that's because he's a good player who doesn't have a certain type of... he's not excessively long, so he can't dominate on longer courses. He just kind of figures a way to get it around everywhere. So he's up there. Number 4 is Taylor Pendrith. Number 5 is Minwoo Lee. Number 6 is Keith Mitchell. Number 7 is Matt McNeely. Number 8 is Steven Yeager. Number 9 is Doug Gim. And number 11 is Ryo Hisatsune, which I like Ryo's game a lot. I've liked it a lot since I saw him play in Ireland last year. I really, really like his game. I think that's quite high, to be honest with you. Davis Thompson's 12th, Ben Griffin's 13th. Ben Griffin, I think we talked about this on yesterday's show, but he has apparently an eye condition. He has floaters in his eye, field of vision, so he's adjusting to having to wear, not contact lenses, sunglasses on the golf course so that he can kind of eliminate some of that from his field of vision while he's playing. As someone who had a massive eye infection, 18 years ago. I had millions of amoeba in my left eye, single-celled organisms, had to kill them. I wear a hard contact lens in my left eye, and I have to wear sunglasses when I play golf because my left eye is particularly light sensitive. That does not prohibit you from playing great golf. So you may have heard that about and Ron Kloss, who does golf splits. He does a great job with his stuff. He pointed that out. He's on site this week. But what I will say is that can be overcome. You can still play great golf even with difficult eyesight or eye issues. So please don't necessarily think Ben Griffin's in deep trouble because of that happening. I think not quite the opposite, but that he can overcome it without a crazy upheaval of his game and form. Akshay Bhatia is 15th in this ranking, just kind of too far up and down. And you notice a guy we haven't talked about yet. Tom Kim is 16th in this ranking because he is also very up and down. Bhatia and Kim are both that kind of guy. That doesn't mean that they're not playable. They're both playing well right now. And we'll talk about that in current form. But Mark Hubbard is 17th as well. The defending champion Ricky Fowler is 19th. The guy I love this week is Ryan Fox. He's 21st, just behind Beau Hossler. So some guys we talked about, some guys we haven't talked about, doing well in the ranking. Rankings based on 1 and 2 year windows, based on your total competition strokes gained, and then weighted against the quality of competition you are expected to see this week based on how the official World Golf ranking rates this field. And I'm anticipating something like 44 to 47 points to the winner, somewhere in that range. I haven't seen that number come out yet, but that's how I create a range to weight the field for the week. And then I'm looking at the last 10 events played and strokes gained in those, and then the last 3 years of the event, assuming that it's played the same place every year. I do include that for the majors that move around just because the philosophy is generally the same. But in this event, obviously, they're playing Detroit Golf Club every year. So you know what you're getting here in terms of a golf course. Just in case you are curious, I did just look this up at the OWGR website. 40.9 points to the winner this week, so a little bit lower than I thought. But range of competition that I use for the model, that actually fits right in there. So that's okay. I usually put it lower end than I think on a Monday or Tuesday morning. And this actually fits just fine. So I don't feel too bad about that. But I do that in the model because some people play better against stronger competition. Some people play better against weaker competition. Some people play great. It doesn't matter who they're playing against. But it's important, I think, to know that about a competitor and then make some decisions about their game. Do they play better against weaker competition because the courses are easier? Do they play better against stronger competition because the courses are harder? Is it the players? Is it their minds? You got to try to kind of figure that out a little bit. And I think weighting it against quality competition tells you a little something about that. So that's helpful. But a lot of those guys I've liked and said I've liked, I mean, they're in the top 20. I don't feel bad about those. So that's good to know, good to have that. Let's talk a little bit about horses for courses. You're going to find there really aren't any in the field this week. I mean, there are guys who have had multiple top 15 finishes here in the last 5 years, the only 5 years they've played this thing. However, there's no one with more than 2 that's competing. So this is not a golf course where yet there has been someone identified that just year in and year out comes and smashes it. Part of that is because, again, no offense to this tournament, you don't want to have to play it every year. If you're playing it every year, you either are on a sponsor deal, maybe you're sponsored by Rocket Mortgage or something, you're a Midwest guy, you're someone in the Detroit area, Michigan guy, or you got to play. Like, especially with the way the playoffs are now, getting in the top 70, you got to play. You got to make your move. So knowing that this isn't necessarily a course that will just identify certain types of players, and you'll look at this list, all guys with 2 top 15 finishes, they're all kind of different. Cam Davis, Ricky Fowler, Adam Hadwin, Steven Yeager, Chris Kirk, Kevin Kistner, Troy Merritt. I mean, there's 2 guys in a row who are just short knockers. Taylor Moore, Alex Noren, Taylor Pendrith, J.J. Spawn, Matt Wallace. I mean, we love Pendrith. We love Wallace this week. Love Yeager this week. Love Cam Davis this week. Those are based on current form and course fit. So there's a little bit of affirmation there. But again, we don't have a true horse. I mean, I think having multiple top 15 finishes at a place is a good thing. It's a good indicator. But when I'm looking at this list, and I know we go over this list every week, usually I'm looking for the people at 3, 4, or 5. 2 is nice. It's a separator. Could be an affirming thing, but it's not a green flag, go bet on this guy kind of thing. But for people like Pendrith and Wallace, who I like, oh yeah, they like the course too. Yeager, oh, he loves the course. And he's been playing great. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, those are affirmations. It's multi-step process here to try to get to the golfers you want to bet. In terms of top 15 finishes, the last 5 PGA Tour events played, It's Tom Kim and Tom Kim only. T4 of the Canadian Open, playoff loser at the Travelers. Not a lot going on there. Lots of players with maybe one finish, but that doesn't mean anything to me personally. Trying to profile the golf course. Course fit actually very similar in breakout to last week, 35-65. A little bit difference in how it's done. A little bit more in strokes gained off the tee, 18-33 on the approach and 14% around the green. So a little less emphasis around the green, a little more emphasis off the tee. Approximately the same on the approach, a little bit less. So this is a little bit more of a masher's paradise. Get that ball out there as far as you can, set yourself up to score. Some fits include Cam Davis, Stephen Yeager, Keith Mitchell, and Eric Cole. Eric Cole's not playing his best golf. Neither is Keith Mitchell for that matter, but again, a little more piece of affirmation with Cam Davis and Stephen Yeager. And I think you would see something similar with Taylor Pendrith too. So not a lot really there to dig in on because there's just not a lot of names to call out for all of those things. But Tom Kim's been bet down to 12-1. Cam Young's still 16-1. Akshay is 22-1. Taylor Pendrith has been bet down. So it's been Stephen Yeager. They're both 25-1. I still think they're worth firing on. Will Zalatoris is 30-1. I'm just kind of go over some guys that we might like. Davis Thompson 35-1 it's just too short to me. I can't bet a guy 35-1 that I really don't love, but I think could be the right kind of affirmation for this week. That's just not it. Cam Davis is 65-1, kind of interesting. Like that's the right price. Matt Wallace 50-1, giddy up. Ryan Fox 55-1, yes sir. Take those all day, every day. Mark Hubbard at 71, I think 72-1 is worth a look. I tend to think about betting him more in these weaker fields because he tends to do his damage in these tournaments. So that may be worth a strong consideration. Ryo Hisetsun came out great in the model, 90-1. If you want to follow that, go get him. Luke Clanton came out way great in my model. I don't know why. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but it's good experience. 90-1 feels a little short to me, but there you go. Matt Meisner's been playing pretty well. Still love that 100-1 price on him. Justin Lauer is a guy that came out surprisingly well in my model, like in the mid-20s. 110-1, I think is probably going to be a flyer lie worth taking on this week. Nothing else really stood out to me like, hey, you got to get in front of this guy. Pearson Coody did better than I thought he would in the model. He's 200-1, but I'm not going to bet him. Yeah, I mean that's really it. There's nothing huge. Some people may like Vincent Norman. He actually turns out pretty decent in the model. Vincent Norman's kind of interesting at 250-1. A lot of people love betting him. Maybe you bet him on a first round leader, not a win bet, but a first round leader bet. Try to get something out of him that way. There's just nothing there that suggests to me that he's going to go win this golf tournament. Although he did have a good couple of runs in Oppo events last year around this time of year, so maybe. And that's not something we never talk about in modeling is months of the year. And there are certain players who just play better at certain times of the year, historically. And we would have said that about Scotty Scheffler until this year when he wins all the time, not just April and before. But that might be something worth looking at. It would be too long of a... Well, it might not be too hard. But the way that we tag all of the data, we'd have to go back and re-tag the data about when the events happen. We could do that and do it by month, which would be kind of interesting to look at strokes gained by month, see if there are guys who kind of have that ebb and flow to them. That might be worth a look. It'd be kind of interesting. Maybe we'll do that over the next couple of weeks. Got some ideas of things like visualizations and other ideas to further enhance what we're looking at. So maybe we can do that. But until we do that, I think that's really the field that I like. And I mentioned this is going to be a shorter show because there's really not a lot to love this week. I think you're kind of being foolhardy if you bet a big card here. Go find a couple 50s. I like Wallace and Fox. Maybe 100-1, maybe 110-1. Shot that you like. Justin Lauer, Matt Meisner work fine for me. And then maybe you go hit one guy in the 20s. For me, that would probably be Stephen Yeager at 25-1. And get the heck out of there. Please don't get yourself mired up this week. We've got a major to prepare for. We've got a Scottish Open with great players. Although I probably will not get deeply involved in that because of the weather forecast potentially. But you've got better opportunities than this one. So maybe this is a better live betting opportunity than anything. Again, with the weather forecast, could be very interesting. Could mess some things up. So please keep all that stuff in mind as you're thinking about betting this week. manage your bankroll responsibly. If you're just betting a dollar or two at a time, then you're thinking about things a little bit differently than I am. If you're betting $100, $250 at a time, you're also thinking about things a little bit differently than I am. So I think if you're trying to manage a bankroll here, this is not a week to go gung-ho. Just have a couple things to sweat on. Maybe get into the DFS pools. Kind of hedge yourself a little bit that way. I did enter a DFS contest this week. I don't typically. Just kind of felt like having a different kind of spread this week. All right, that's going to do it for us today on the show. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it. Again, if you want to join Golf News Net for $40 a year, head over to golfnewsnet.com and check that out. Or you can do $10 for a week, but I don't know why you would do that this week. And tomorrow we're going to talk about everything else this week. We have the Italian Open on the DP World Tour. We'll spend a few seconds on the Team Championship, the Dow Championship on the LPGA, although we won't spend much time. We've got the U.S. Senior Open, and we've got the Korn Ferry Tour out in Springfield, Illinois. So we'll spend a couple seconds on that. So again, a quick show tomorrow, but we will be talking about that. Thanks so much for listening. I very much appreciate it. We will talk to you next time on The Press.